The alarm systems across Velthor Prime screamed warnings that hadn't sounded in 800,000 years. In the great council chambers, Speaker Thelvas stopped mid-sentence as every screen suddenly displayed the same impossible message. Ships were appearing in orbit. Human ships. The word sent ripples of ancient fear through the assembled representatives. 200 species sat in those chambers, some so old they remembered the stories passed down through countless generations. Stories of the humans, the aggressive ones, the dangerous ones, the ones who had been expelled and sealed away behind quantum barriers that nothing could cross. Thelvas pulled up the historical records with shaking hands. Yes, there it was. 800,000 years ago, the Council had voted unanimously. Humanity was too unpredictable, too violent, too fast in their advancement. They asked too many questions. They pushed too many boundaries. The Council gave them a choice: stay locked in their 3 colony worlds forever, or leave the galaxy entirely. According to all records, humans had chosen to leave. They had taken their ships and gone into the unknown void beyond the galactic rim. The barriers had been sealed behind them. Nothing should have been able to return. Yet here they were. Commander Hyon stood on the bridge of the HSS. Wanderers returned and watched the defensive fleet forming ahead. 50,000 warships, she counted. Every major species sending their best. All of them pointing weapons at her small fleet of just 200 vessels. She smiled slightly. They were afraid. Good. Fear meant respect. And respect was something humanity had lacked last time they were here. Captain Doyon, she said calmly. Open a channel on all the old frequencies. Doyon worked his console, his fingers moving with practiced ease. Channel open, Commander. Hyon took a breath. This moment had been planned for centuries, practiced, refined. Galactic Council, this is Commander Hyon of the Human Stellar Navy. We request an audience. We have returned home. The response came quickly, the voice tight with barely controlled panic. Human vessels, you were expelled from Council space? The quarantine zone shows no breach. How did you escape? We didn't escape, Hyon replied, keeping her voice friendly. We left as was our right. We've been exploring the universe beyond this galaxy. Now we're back. Silence filled the channel. Hyon could imagine the chaos in those council chambers. The emergency meetings being called, the military advisors being summoned. All the old fears awakening after sleeping for so long on Velthor Prime. Counselor American of the Fel Dominion leaned close to Thelvas. Their ships are wrong, she whispered urgently. Our sensors can't penetrate them. Weapons targeting systems are failing. It's like they're not entirely in our dimension. Thelvas studied the display. The human ships look simple enough. Clean lines, elegant design. But Miraken was right. Every time the targeting systems locked on, they slipped away. Not through jamming or countermeasures. The ships just seemed to exist slightly sideways from reality. What did they become out there? Thelvas muttered. The council debated for hours while the human fleet waited patiently in orbit. Some wanted to attack immediately. Others argued for negotiation. A few pointed out that if humans could appear here despite all their defenses, perhaps attacking would be unwise. Finally, Thelvas opened a return channel. Commander Hyon, the Council has agreed to a preliminary meeting. You may send 3 ambassadors to the surface. Only 3. They will be scanned and monitored at all times. Understood, Hyon replied. Our ambassadors will arrive within the hour. Thank you for your hospitality. The transport that descended to Velthor Prime was unlike anything in Council records. It moved smoothly, ignoring atmospheric turbulence as if it wasn't there. When it landed, 3 humans emerged. Ambassador Jiho stepped out first. He looked young, perhaps 30 years old by human standards, but his eyes held something ancient. Behind him came Dr. Soyan, carrying several small data cubes. Last came General Minwoo, a tall man who said nothing but whose presence made every security officer nervous. The Council had prepared the old human embassy for them. It had been sealed for 800,000 years, preserved as a historical monument. When Jiho walked through the doors, the building's ancient system suddenly activated. Lights turned on. Climate control engaged. The building recognized him. Recognized his genetic markers. Fascinating, Jeho said softly. Everything still works. The questioning began immediately. Council representatives surrounded them in a secure chamber, asking question after question. Where had humanity gone? How many humans existed now? What technologies had they developed? Why had they returned? Jeho answered patiently. We left through the southern void, beyond the galactic rim. We found other places, other dimensions. We built new homes. We learned new things. We evolved. How many of you are there? Thelva's demanded. Jeho smiled. Enough. The vague answer frustrated the council, but they couldn't push harder. Not yet. Not until they understood what they were dealing with. Dr. Soyen presented some of the data cubes. These contain information about our journey, species we encountered, ecosystems we studied, knowledge we gained. We offer it freely. A council scientist tried to access one cube and stopped, confusion on their face. This data? I don't understand it. These species exist in dimensions we don't have names for. These physics equations have variables that don't exist in our mathematics. You'll learn, Soyen said gently. We did. On the fourth day of questioning, Counselor Vexler of the Kryn hegemony spoke up. His species had written the original expulsion order. You were expelled because you were violent. You started conflicts everywhere you went. You couldn't control your aggressive impulses. Has this changed? Jeho looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded to Soyen, who activated a holographic display. It showed humanity's first century after leaving the galaxy, the desperate flight into unknown space. Ships lost to strange phenomena, colonies failing on hostile worlds, millions dying. Then it showed what came next, the discovery of the outer void where reality worked differently. The encounters with things that made nightmares seem pleasant, entities that existed before stars, machines that ate dimensions, predators that hunted through time itself. We met things out there that would destroy your entire civilization in days, Soyen said quietly. We survived them. We fought them. We befriended some and destroyed others. We learned that violence isn't a flaw. It's a tool. And like any tool, it requires wisdom to use properly. And you have this wisdom now? Vexler asked mockingly. Now we have perspective, Joe corrected. The council debated privately for 3 more days. Their military advisors urged immediate action. The humans were too dangerous, too advanced, too unknown. Better to strike now while their fleet was small, but Thelva's hesitated. The humans had made no threats, no demands except to be recognized. Perhaps they had truly changed. Counselor Mirakin disagreed strongly. In 800,000 years, they never sent a single message, never tried to communicate, never asked for reconciliation. They just appear with a fleet. This is a show of force, not peace. The council voted. They would delay humanity's petition indefinitely. More time was needed. More information. More security measures. When Jeho received the news, he simply nodded. We expected this. We'll wait in orbit. Take all the time you need. That night, 3 council species detected something that made their blood freeze. Human ships had appeared near their homeworlds. Not approaching. Not threatening. Just there, watching, waiting. More reports came in. Human ships in every major system. Dozens of them, hundreds, all maintaining distance but making their presence known. The message was absolutely clear. We can reach anywhere. We can go anywhere. Nothing you have can stop us. Thelva stared at the tactical display and realized the truth. Humanity wasn't asking for permission to return. They were informing the council of a decision already made. The only question now was whether the council would accept them as equals or force humanity to take what was rightfully theirs for the first time. In 800,000 years, the Galactic Council was not the supreme power in the galaxy, and everyone knew it. Dr. Bowman had been a historian for 300 years, which was young by Terek standards. Her species lived long lives dedicated to preserving knowledge. She had spent the last 50 years studying the ancient archives, particularly the period when humans had been expelled from the Council. Something bothered her about the records. Small inconsistencies, video files that seemed edited, testimony that didn't quite match between different sources. Most historians dismissed these as natural corruption over such a long time, but Bowman couldn't let it go. She worked late in the archive chambers, cross-referencing data from sources that hadn't been accessed in millennia, and then she found it. A backup server, isolated and forgotten, containing unedited files from the original human expulsion hearings. What she read made her hands shake. The official records claimed humans were expelled for violence and aggression. But the unedited files told a different story. Humans had been advancing too quickly. In just 300 years of spaceflight, they had developed technology that took other species 10,000 years to achieve. They were asking questions about the fundamental nature of the galaxy. Questions the Council didn't want answered. Humans had been close to discovering something called the Architects. Very close. Bowman pulled up everything she could find about the Architects. Most of it was sealed, requiring Council speaker clearance. But she found enough. The Architects were the ancient race that had uplifted most Council species millions of years ago. They had vanished mysteriously, leaving behind technology that the Council still used but didn't fully understand. Humanity had been weeks away from finding an architect facility when they were expelled. Bowman took her findings to Speaker Thelvas in the middle of the night, requesting a private meeting in his residential quarters. He listened to everything she had discovered, his expression growing darker with each revelation. The Council lied, he said finally. They expelled humanity not for being dangerous, but for being curious. And successful, Bowman added. They were advancing faster than any species in recorded history. The Council of that era was afraid of what humans might become. Thelvas stood and walked to his window, looking out at the human fleet visible in the night sky. I need to speak with Ambassador Jiho, privately, somewhere without surveillance. They met in the ancient gardens of Velthor Prime, a place where technology didn't work well due to natural mineral deposits. Just two figures walking among plants that had grown for 1,000,000 years. You know about the Architects, Thelvas said. It wasn't a question. Jiho smiled, but it was a sad smile. We found them. Out in the outer void, not all of them vanished. Some of them chose exile, just like we did. They had very interesting stories about the galaxy they left behind. What did they tell you? That they uplifted your species because they wanted successors, caretakers for the galaxy. They wanted races who would explore, grow, and eventually surpass them. But their creations became fearful and conservative. You built a council not to explore and expand, but to maintain and control. The Architects left because they were disappointed. Thelvas felt the weight of those words. And you? What did you become out there? Jiho stopped walking and turned to face him. We became what we needed to be. The outer void is complex. Multiple dimensions intersecting. Places where thought can shape reality. We couldn't survive as we were, so we adapted. We evolved. Not just biologically, but technologically, philosophically, even spiritually. Are you even human anymore? Jiho laughed. Are you even Koran? Your species has had genetic modifications for 500,000 years. Cybernetic implants, extended lifespans. Neural networks. You're as far from your ancestors as we are from ours. The difference is that we remember what we were. You've forgotten. Back in the council chambers, events were moving quickly. Councillor Vexler had gathered 12 other hardline members for a secret meeting. They had made a decision. The humans were too dangerous. They needed to be eliminated before they became an even greater threat. Vexler had access to something most council members didn't know existed. An ancient architect weapon platform hidden in deep space, meant to be used only if the Architect's ancient enemies ever returned. It had the power to sterilize entire sectors of space. We activate it now, Vexler told the others. We destroy the human fleet before they bring more ships. Before they become unstoppable, some objected, arguing this was genocide. But Vexter dismissed their concerns. This is survival. They're not the humans we expelled. There's something else, something wrong. We end this now while we still can. The weapon platform activated, drawing power from a contained singularity deep in its core. Exotic matter channeled through systems that bent reality itself. The discharge was visible across the entire system, a beam of pure destruction aimed at the human fleet in orbit. When the light cleared, the human fleet remained. Every ship intact, unmoved, undamaged. Commander Hyun's voice came across all channels. Her tone was no longer friendly. It was cold, like the void between stars. We detected your weapon platform 3 days ago. We didn't disable it because we wanted to see if you would actually use it. You answered that question. General Minwoo, you're authorized to respond. From the human flagship, a single drone emerged. It was small, barely larger than a personal transport. It moved toward the weapon platform with slow, deliberate precision. The platform's automated defenses fired everything they had. Energy weapons, projectiles, exotic matter disruptors. All of it passed through the drone as if it wasn't there. The drone reached the platform and touched its hull. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the platform began to come apart. Not explosively, not violently, it simply unfolded. Its exotic matter dissipated harmlessly. Its singularity core stabilized and went dark. The entire structure, larger than a moon, deconstructed into component atoms and drifted apart like dust in the wind. Your architect technology is impressive, Hyun said. But we learned from the architects themselves. We can unmake what they made. We can take apart any system they built, every weapon, every shield, every faster-than-light inhibitor. All of it is transparent to us now. Across Council space, every architect-derived system suddenly displayed warning messages. Human override codes were present in all of them. The Council's most advanced technology, the foundation of their power for millions of years, was now completely open to humanity. Vexter, realizing the magnitude of his mistake, tried to flee. His personal ship launched from Velthra Prime with full emergency power. It made it 3 light seconds from the planet before human vessels simply appeared around it. No faster-than-light signatures, no quantum tunneling effects. They were just suddenly there, as if they had always been there. Counselor Vexter, General Minwoo's voice was completely emotionless. You attempted genocide against a peaceful delegation. You violated every treaty of civilized conduct that the Council claims to uphold. You will stand trial for your crimes. You have no authority, Vexter shouted. This is Council space. You can't. We can. We are. Do not resist. Vexter's ship was transported, not pulled by tractor beams. Not forced to fly somewhere. It was simply moved through space without traveling the distance between. One moment near Velthra Prime, the next moment inside a human vessel's hangar bay, the Council watched in complete horror as their most powerful military voice was captured without a single shot being fired. Speaker Thelvas, still in the gardens with Jiho, received the news on his personal device. He read the report twice, then looked at the human ambassador. Did you know this would happen? We knew someone would try, Jiho admitted. We hoped we were wrong. But yes, we were prepared for it. You could have stopped them before they fired. Yes, but then you would never have truly understood what you're dealing with. Words only go so far. Sometimes people need to see the truth. Thelvas felt anger rise in him. You let them try to commit genocide just to prove a point? We let them reveal their true intentions, Jiho corrected. Vexter and his allies were always going to try something. Better now, when we can contain it, than later when it might cause a real war, and we knew our ships were safe. No one was in actual danger except Vexter's own conscience. Back at the Council chambers, emergency sessions began. Half the members were calling for complete surrender. The other half were still arguing for resistance. A few, like Mirakin, were simply trying to understand what had just happened. They didn't destroy the weapon, she said to anyone who would listen. They unmade it, took it apart at the atomic level. That's not weapons technology, that's something else. Something far beyond what we understand. An emergency message came through from the human fleet, not from Commander Hyen or General Minwoo, but from Ambassador Jiho. Members of the Galactic Council, we did not return to your galaxy to conquer or destroy. We came home. This is our birthplace just as much as it is yours. We have the power to take what we want, but we won't. We're offering you a choice, the same choice you gave us 800,000 years ago. You can work with us as equals or you can continue to resist. But understand this, we are not leaving again. This galaxy belongs to all species that evolved within it. Our rights here are not yours to grant or deny. The message ended. The council sat in silence. The trial took place in neutral space aboard a human vessel called the Testament. The council had insisted on sending observers, and what they found aboard that ship changed everything they thought they knew about reality. The ship was alive. Not in a biological sense, but in a way that suggested consciousness woven into every wall, every system, every corridor. When council observers stepped aboard, the ship greeted them telepathically, welcoming them in their own languages. It adjusted gravity and atmosphere to each species' needs without being asked. It knew what they needed before they did. How is this possible? One observer whispered. The ship is part of us, and we are part of it, a human crew member explained. In the outer void, we learned that consciousness and matter aren't separate things. They're different expressions of the same reality. Counselor Vexler stood in the trial chamber, and even he looked frightened. The room existed in multiple dimensions at once. He could see versions of himself standing trial in adjacent realities, making different choices, receiving different judgments. It was disorienting and terrifying. Judge Youngji presided over the proceedings. She appeared to be in her 30s, with kind eyes that somehow suggested ages beyond counting. Next to her sat two advisors. One was a being of pure light that identified itself as a former architect. The other looked like living mathematics, equations and formulas flowing across its form. The trial began with evidence presentation. Every action Vexler had taken was displayed in perfect detail. Not just video recordings, but full sensory recreations. The council observers could feel his emotions, understand his thoughts, experience his choices as if they were their own. This isn't just a trial, Felvas realized. It's truth itself made visible. Vexler's defenders, appointed by the council to ensure fairness, tried to argue that he had acted to protect the council, that the human threat was too great, that extreme measures were justified. Judge Youngji listened patiently to every argument. Then she began questioning Vexler directly. Why did you truly want humanity destroyed? She asked. They're dangerous, Vexler said. Too powerful. Too advanced. That's not the truth, Youngji replied gently. Try again. Vexler struggled against something invisible. In this room lies were impossible. The truth forced itself out. Because they make us obsolete. Because everything we've built, everything we've accomplished over millions of years, they achieved in a fraction of that time. Because we can't compete with them. Now we have honesty, Youngji said. The trial will continue. Over 7 days. The full story of humanity's journey was revealed. Dr. Soyan took the stand and presented testimony that left the council observers speechless. The first 100,000 years of exile had been desperate. Humanity fled into unmapped space with limited resources. Millions died in those early years. Ships lost to spatial anomalies. Colonies failing on harsh worlds. Children born in space who never saw a real planet, but humans adapted. They modified their bodies to survive in environments that would kill any council species. They built habitats in places where physics worked differently. They learned to thrive in the darkness between galaxies. Then they found the threshold. A rupture in space-time leading to the outer void. Beyond it lay a realm where physical laws were flexible, where reality could be shaped by will and understanding, where thought and matter were the same thing. Humanity faced a choice. Stay in the regular galaxy and slowly fade away, or risk everything by going into the unknown. They chose risk. In the outer void, we encountered the architects, Soyan explained. They weren't dead or vanished. They had transcended physical form, existing as patterns of pure consciousness. They were fascinated by us, by our determination to survive. They offered to teach us. The architects showed humanity how to see reality as it truly was, not fixed and unchangeable, but fluid and responsive. They taught humans to manipulate probability, to fold dimensions, to touch the underlying code of existence itself, but the architects also warned them. Other entities existed in the outer void, the devourers who consumed entire timelines and left nothing behind. The singers whose songs could unmake stars. The silence, which was the literal absence of existence. We fought them all, Soyen said quietly. We lost entire fleets. Watched billions die. Each loss taught us something. Made us stronger. Made us understand reality in ways we never imagined possible. The council observers saw it all. Not just heard about it, but experienced it through the trial chamber's reality projection. They felt the terror of facing entities that could delete existence itself. The grief of losing loved ones to things that couldn't be fought with normal weapons. The determination that kept humanity pushing forward even when extinction seemed certain. You became something else out there, Thelvis said from the observer gallery. Something beyond what we can understand. We became what we needed to be, Jiho, who was also present, replied. Just as your ancestors became what they needed to be when the architects uplifted them. The difference is context. Your ancestors were lifted up. We had to climb. The trial also revealed the full extent of the council's original deception, Dr. Bowman testified, presenting all her evidence. The edited videos, the altered testimony, the systematic lies that had justified humanity's expulsion. They weren't expelled for being violent, Bowman explained. They were expelled for being curious, for advancing too quickly, for asking questions that the council leadership didn't want answered. Questions about the architects, about where council technology really came from, about whether the council was built on lies. Ambassador Jiho took the stand and spoke directly to the observers. We don't blame the current council for what happened 800,000 years ago. That's ancient history. Different people, different circumstances, but we need you to understand what was taken from us. We were exiled from our birthplace. Cut off from the galactic community, forced to become something we never wanted to be, just to survive in hostile space. Yet you came back? Thelvis called out. Why? For revenge? For completion, Jiho answered. This galaxy is our home too. We have every right to be here. But more importantly, you need us. General Minwoo took the stand next and dropped information that made every observer freeze in their seats. While you've been safe behind your architect-built barriers, playing politics and maintaining your comfortable status quo, the galaxy has been changing, Minwoo said. The devourers we fought in the outer void, they're coming here. They're coming to council space. We estimate you have 50 years. Maybe less. He activated a holographic display showing the galactic edge. Reality itself was fraying there. Stars weren't exploding or dying. They were simply ceasing to exist, vanishing from space-time as if they had never been. The devourers consume everything, Minwoo continued. Matter, energy, information, time itself. They leave nothing behind. Not even memories. Your architect technology won't stop them. We know because we've tried. We fought them for 400,000 years. The architects themselves fled from the devourers. That's why they came to this galaxy in the first place. The observers sat in complete silence. This was beyond their worst nightmares. We came back because we can fight them, Minwoo said. We know how to wound them, slow them, hold them back. But we can't stop them alone. We need every species, every ship, every mind working together. That's why we're here. Then why the show of force? Someone called out. Why terrify us with your abilities? Commander Hyun, standing beside Minwoo, answered, Because you wouldn't have listened otherwise. Because you needed to understand that we're not the same species you expelled. We're not asking for your protection or permission. We're offering you a chance to survive what's coming. Judge Youngji finally rendered judgment on Vexler. You are guilty of attempted genocide against a peaceful delegation. You violated every principle of civilized conduct. Your sentence is exile to a pocket dimension for 10,000 years, with the possibility of rehabilitation and return. The sentence shocked the council observers. By their standards, it was cruel. By human standards, it was merciful. Vexler could have been simply erased from existence. But instead he was given time to reflect and change. But the real judgment came next, aimed at the entire council. You have 50 years, Youngji said, her voice carrying to every observer. Humanity will establish embassies throughout your territories. We will share our knowledge freely. We will help you prepare for what's coming. But we will not beg for your acceptance. We will not ask permission to exist in our own home galaxy. The Devourers are coming whether you accept us or not. The only question is whether you'll face them with allies or alone. She paused, looking at each observer in turn. We're offering you partnership. True partnership between equals. Not master and servant. Not conqueror and conquered. Partners facing an existential threat together. Your ancestors made the wrong choice 800,000 years ago. You have the chance to make the right choice now. The trial ended. Vexler was led away to his dimensional prison. The observers returned to Velthora Prime, carrying with them knowledge that would change everything. In the council chambers, Speaker Thelvas called for a vote. Not on whether to accept humanity, but on whether to survive. The first human embassy appeared on Velthora Prime overnight. Literally overnight. Council security went to sleep with an empty plot of land and woke to find a massive structure standing where nothing had been before. It was impossible, but there it was. The building existed partially in normal space and partially in higher dimensions. From one angle, it looked small, barely larger than a standard diplomatic facility. From another angle, it seemed to stretch into infinity. Observers reported feeling dizzy when they looked at it too long. Ambassador Jaewon led the embassy staff. He was younger than Jiho, with an easy smile and genuine warmth that put people at ease. Which was important because most council species were terrified. We're not here to replace you, Jaewon told the first group of council diplomats who visited. We're here to work with you, to share what we know. To learn what you know. Partnership works both ways. But partnership was hard when one side had technology that seemed like magic. Within a week, human embassies appeared in every major council system. Each one built overnight using dimensional engineering. Each one staffed by humans who seemed genuinely interested in understanding alien cultures. Each one offering to share knowledge that the council couldn't begin to comprehend. The council species reacted in different ways. The Terraks, led by Dr. Bowman's enthusiasm, embraced humanity eagerly. They wanted to learn everything. Their scientists lined up at the human embassy, asking questions, begging for access to databases. The Koran. Speaker Thelva's species were more cautious but open. They saw the practical benefits of cooperation. If the Devourers were really coming, they needed every advantage. The Kryn hegemony, still bitter about Vexler's imprisonment, resisted loudly. Their new leader, Councillor Bexcan, argued that humanity was colonizing them through cultural dominance rather than military force. They don't need to conquer us with weapons, Bexcan said in a council session. They're conquering us with knowledge, making us dependent on them. In a generation, we won't be independent species anymore. We'll be their students, their children, their subordinates. Speaker Thelvas listened to these arguments, understanding them but disagreeing. He had spent time with Jiho and Jaewon. He had seen their genuine respect for council cultures, but he also understood Bexcan's fear. Change was always frightening. Dr. Soyan established the Institute of Convergence in Neutral Space, a massive station where human and council scientists could work together. The first project was developing new shield technology that could resist the reality warping effects of the Devourers. The breakthrough came within 3 months. A Terraks engineer named Kalo worked with a human physicist named Unji to create a shield that existed in multiple dimensions at once. When tested, it successfully deflected attacks that would normally erase matter from existence. "This is incredible," Kylo said, reviewing the results. "We've been trying to solve this problem for millennia." "You solved it in weeks," Yunji smiled. "We had different experiences, different perspectives. Together we can do things neither of us could do alone." That's the whole point. General Minwu transformed Council military doctrine from the ground up. He didn't impose human tactics on them. Instead, he studied their traditional strategies and showed them how to adapt those strategies for fighting enemies that didn't follow normal physical laws. His training sessions were brutal. Council warriors who had trained for centuries found themselves completely outmatched by human combat specialists. Not because humans were physically superior, but because they understood combat in ways that Council species didn't. "Fighting the Devourers isn't like fighting other ships or soldiers," Minwu explained to a group of Council generals. "They don't exist in 3 dimensions. They don't follow cause and effect the way you understand it. You can't just shoot them with bigger weapons. You have to understand what they are and attack their fundamental nature. And how do we learn this?" One general asked skeptically. "By training with us. By opening your mind to possibilities you've always dismissed as impossible. By accepting that everything you know about combat might be wrong." It was hard. Many Council military officers resigned rather than accept human training. But those who stayed began to see results. They started thinking differently, fighting differently. Winning simulations they would have lost before. 5 years after humanity's return, Speaker Thelvas faced the hardest decision of his long life. The Council was splitting apart. Half the member species wanted full integration with humanity, combining their civilizations into something new. The other half wanted to maintain independence, accepting only minimal cooperation. A vote was coming. A vote that would determine the future of the galaxy. Thelvas requested a private meeting with Ambassador Jiho in the same gardens where they had first spoken honestly. "Are we becoming your subordinates?" Thelvas asked directly. "In 1,000 years, will the Council exist, or will we just be part of a human empire?" Jiho was quiet for a moment, considering his words carefully. "We don't want to rule you. We want to coexist with you. Your species have strengths that humanity lacks. Your diplomatic traditions, your cultural diversity, your patience. These things are valuable. We've always been impulsive and aggressive. That hasn't entirely changed. We need your stabilizing influence as much as you need our strength." "But you could control us," Thelvas said. "Your technology is so far beyond ours." "So was the architect's technology beyond yours when they uplifted you," Jiho pointed out. "Did they control you?" "No," Thelvas admitted. "But they left, and we won't," Jiho said firmly. "This is our home too. We're not visitors or conquerors. We're family who was gone for a very long time. Partners, not masters and servants." Thelvas made his decision. He proposed a reformed council. Renamed the Galactic Union, humanity would be a founding member alongside the original 200 species. All members would have equal voting rights. All members would share technology and knowledge freely. All members would work together to face the coming threat. The vote was close, very close, but it passed by a margin of just 12 votes. The Galactic Union was born. Human shipyards appeared in every major system almost immediately. These weren't small facilities. They were structures larger than planets, churning out vessels at impossible speeds. But the ships they built weren't purely human designs. Council species contributed their own innovations, their own aesthetic preferences, their own cultural perspectives. The first hybrid vessel, named the Unity, was a symbol of this new cooperation. It combined human dimensional engineering with Corran strategic systems, Fel artistic design, and Tarek's practical engineering. The ship was beautiful and deadly in equal measure. Captain Nari commanded the Unity with a crew of 50 different species, including 12 humans. Getting them to work together was a challenge. Different atmospheres, different gravities, different communication styles. But slowly they learned. A Corran tactical officer named Valek initially resented serving under a human captain. "They think they're superior?" he complained to his fellow Corran. They act like we're children they need to teach. But during combat simulations, Valek noticed something. Captain Nari didn't act superior. She listened to her officers' suggestions, valued their input, made decisions based on the best ideas, regardless of which species suggested them. After one particularly successful simulation, Nari called Valek to her ready room. "You have excellent tactical instincts," she told him. "Your strategy for the flanking maneuver was better than what I would have done. I want you to lead tactical planning for our next mission." Valek was surprised. "You're letting me lead?" "You're the best person for the job," Nari said simply. "That's how this works. Everyone contributes what they're best at. Human, Koran, Terex, doesn't matter. We're all crew." Meanwhile, the fraying edge of reality crept closer. Remote monitoring stations disappeared one by one. The Devourers were accelerating toward Council space. Humanity's 50-year estimate was becoming optimistic. 20 years after humanity's return, the moment everyone had dreaded arrived. The outer colony of Rixon, home to 3 billion Javek, sent a distress signal. The Devourers had reached inhabited space. The response was immediate. 200 human ships and 500 council vessels, including the Unity, jumped to Rixon within hours. What they found there was beyond description. The Devourers weren't creatures or machines. They were absence given form, voids shaped like hunger. Reality itself bent away from them, stars dimming in their presence. Space-time fracturing like broken glass. Captain Nari stood on the Unity's bridge and felt fear for the first time in years. "This is what humanity fought for 400,000 years? This is what we learned to fight," her human second officer corrected. "There's a difference." The battle began. Conventional weapons passed through the Devourers like they weren't there. Energy beams, missiles, kinetic rounds, all useless. But human weapons work differently. Reality anchors that pinned the Devourers into normal space. Probability inverters that made their existence less likely. Dimensional shears that cut them off from their source of power. The Unity's hybrid crew performed brilliantly. Valek's tactical genius identified weaknesses in the Devourers' formation. Fel engineers rerouted power at critical moments. Human weapons officers delivered killing blows with precision. The discovery that humanity was changing other species caused panic among some council members and wonder among others. Emergency sessions were called. Scientists demanded explanations. Religious leaders debated the spiritual implications. Ambassador Jiho addressed the Galactic Union directly, standing before representatives of 201 species in the Great Chamber that now included human delegates as equals. "We didn't plan this," Jiho said honestly. "We didn't know it would happen. But yes, exposure to humanity appears to trigger evolutionary changes in other species. Not forced changes, not genetic manipulation, but inspiration. Being near us, fighting beside us, learning from us opens possibilities in your minds that were always there, but dormant." "You're transforming us without permission," Counselor Bexcan accused. "This is invasion by another method." "You're transforming yourselves," Jiho corrected. "We're just showing you what's possible. The same thing would have happened 800,000 years ago if you hadn't expelled us. The Council would have evolved alongside humanity naturally. Perhaps if that had happened, the Devourers wouldn't be such a threat now." Speaker Thelvas stood to address the chamber. He had felt the changes himself. His perception had expanded. He could sense things he never could before. "I understand the fear," he said. "Change is frightening. But consider this. We face an enemy that can erase us from existence. An enemy our technology can't fully stop. If becoming more like humanity gives us a chance to survive, is that really such a terrible price?" The debate raged for weeks. Some species embraced the changes, sending their people to work closely with humans to accelerate their evolution. Others isolated themselves, afraid of losing their cultural identity, but the Devourers didn't care about politics or philosophy. They kept coming. As the deadline approached, humanity made a final offer to the Galactic Union. Judge Youngji, now serving as humanity's High Envoy, stood before the full assembly. "We can see 3 possible futures," she said. In the first, we fight the Devourers as separate peoples. Council and humanity as allies but distinct. We survive, but barely. Billions die. Entire civilizations are erased. It's survival, but at a terrible cost. She paused, letting that sink in. In the second future, we fully integrate. Council species undergo accelerated uplift, becoming like humanity as quickly as possible. We drive back the Devourers completely, maybe even destroy them. But you lose what makes you distinct. Your cultures blend into ours. In 1,000 years, there might only be variations of humanity left. The chamber was silent. Both options were grim. In the third future, Youngji continued, her voice warming slightly, we acknowledge what we truly are. A galactic family separated by fear and pride. We remain distinct peoples with our own cultures, our own identities, our own ways of seeing the universe. But we share knowledge freely. We share power freely. We share purpose. It won't be easy. There will be conflicts and misunderstandings and cultural clashes, but we'll face the Devourers and whatever comes after as true partners. She looked across the assembled representatives, meeting eyes with as many as she could. The choice is yours. We won't force you. We can't force you. But choose quickly, because the Devourers are almost here. The vote was unanimous. All 201 species chose the third path, partnership, family, unity and diversity. The work that followed was immense. Human experts worked with council engineers to upgrade every major defensive installation. Not replacing council technology, but enhancing it. Combining human dimensional engineering with traditional council designs, the educational programs expanded dramatically. Millions of council citizens attended human institutes, learning new ways of thinking. But humans also attended council academies, learning diplomacy from the Koran, art from the Fel, engineering patience from the Turrics. It wasn't one-way teaching. It was genuine exchange. Captain Nari's unity became the model for the new fleet. Hundreds of hybrid vessels were built, each crewed by multiple species, each combining the best of all traditions. The shipyards worked constantly, and the fleet grew. 30 years after humanity's return, the main wave of Devourers reached council space. This wasn't a scouting force like at Rixon. This was an invasion force that stretched across light years. Reality itself warped in their presence, stars going dark, planets vanishing, time becoming unstable. The Galactic Union fleet met them at the border of civilized space. 10,000 ships. Crews of mixed species. Weapons that combined council precision with human reality manipulation. Captain Nari commanded a battle group of 500 vessels. Including the Unity, her tactical officer Valak had been promoted to commander of his own ship, but he chose to stay with Nari. We train together, he said simply. We fight together. The battle was unlike anything in history. It lasted for 3 months. 3 months of constant fighting across multiple dimensions. Ships phasing in and out of normal space, attacking Devourers that existed in places where time didn't flow normally. The council species fought with courage they didn't know they had. The changes that had occurred in those exposed to humanity paid off. Soldiers could sense the Devourers' movements before they happened. Engineers could repair damage by manipulating probability. Commanders could coordinate across dimensions through pure will, but the Devourers were relentless. They consumed entire fleets, erased ships from existence, deleted whole squadrons from reality and memory. The losses were catastrophic. On the 87th day of battle, the Unity's shields failed. A Devourer manifested directly in front of them, ready to consume the ship and everyone aboard. Captain Nari prepared for the end, then something impossible happened. Her crew, all 50 species represented on that ship, reached out mentally at the same moment. Their minds linked through their shared experiences, their shared training, their shared determination. They became something greater than the sum of their parts. The Unity phased into higher dimensions, places the Devourers couldn't easily reach. But they didn't flee. They dragged the Devourer with them, trapping it between realities where it couldn't draw power. Fire everything, Nari commanded. Every weapon on the Unity discharged at once. Reality anchors, dimensional shears, probability inverters, and conventional weapons all focused on a single point. The Devourer writhed, trying to escape, but the combined will of 50 species held it in place. Across the battlefield, other crews saw what the Unity had done, saw how different species working together could achieve what none could do alone. The tactics spread. Ship after ship formed mental links, crews combining their abilities. The tide turned. By the end of the 3-month battle, the Devourers had been pushed back. Not destroyed, they couldn't be fully destroyed, but contained. Sealed behind barriers that combined architect technology, human dimensional engineering, and council innovation, the cost was enormous. 3,000 ships lost. Millions dead. Entire systems needed rebuilding. But they had one dot in the aftermath. The Galactic Union held a memorial service in neutral space. A monument was built that existed in all dimensions at once, visible from anywhere in the galaxy. The names of every person who died were inscribed on it. Human and council species together. Ambassador Jiho spoke at the ceremony. We lost so much in this war. But we gained something too. We proved that unity isn't weakness. That diversity makes us stronger. That different species working together can achieve what none could achieve alone. Speaker Thelva stood beside him. 800,000 years ago, our ancestors made a mistake born from fear. They saw humanity's potential and were afraid. They chose exclusion instead of cooperation. Today we've corrected that mistake. Not by forgetting the past, but by learning from it. 500 years later, the historian collective maintains records. It's a shared consciousness of willing members from all 201 species, including humans. Their purpose is to ensure the truth is never forgotten again. Their latest entry reads, "The war of consumption lasted 500 years total. The Devourers pushed into our galaxy 7 times. 7 times we pushed them back. The final battle saw unified fleets using technology that no single species could have developed. We didn't destroy the Devourers. Such things cannot be destroyed. But we taught them that this galaxy has teeth. They hunt easier prey now. Humanity's return changed everything. They were expelled for being dangerous, but danger was what we needed. They were feared for being unpredictable, but unpredictability breeds innovation. They were cast out for asking questions, but their questions led to answers that saved us all. The greatest lesson? Humanity never sought vengeance for their expulsion. They could have. They had the power to destroy us, to take everything we had, to make us pay for 800,000 years of exile. But they didn't. They understood something the old council did not. Survival requires unity, not exclusion. Progress requires diversity, not conformity. They came back not as conquerors, but as family. And in accepting them, in learning from them, in teaching them what we knew, we didn't lose ourselves. We became something greater. The Galactic Union is stronger than the old council ever was because it embraces change instead of fearing it. Today, human children learn Koran philosophy. Tarek's children study human dimensional mechanics. Fel artists collaborate with human engineers to create beauty that exists across multiple realities.